Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewell, and today we're going to be talking about the habit of change.
Oh.
Yeah, and guess what? I got a special guest in
Very special
the
guest.
house.
In the house.
My tigress wife.
Oh my Lord.
Katie, welcome. How are you?
Is that a new nickname?
Well, you kind of said "ooh" in the beginning. So
tigress?
Yeah,
What's
you
a
kind of
tigress?
sounded like a tigress, a female tiger. All right, so lots of things happening in the last week. Think about last Thursday, Friday. It was like everything was normal.
It doesn't a week. I feel like it's been
this last week's felt like a year.
Oh. Yeah.
So if you guys don't know, today is 3/20 and March 20th, 2019. We are in the middle
2020.
2020. And if you don't know, we're in the middle of kind of like crazy, like California's on lockdown right now.
We are. We're
locked into the office doing a podcast on Mr. Coronavirus.
Yes.
So what's changed in your world in the last week?
Well, let's see. The kids are out of school.
Yeah, indefinitely.
And well, don't say that. We don't know that for sure now. Let's not, we're going to talk only the facts that we know.
Okay.
There's a lot changed. I mean, we can't go anywhere. Nothing's open. I mean, my gym closed, which I think that's what made it really realize like this is really happening. So my gym closed, nail salons, shopping, well, other than grocery stores, everything's pretty much closed. You can't, we're actually being told not to go to the playgrounds in the neighborhoods.
Really?
Yeah.
Since when?
That's part of the lockdown.
Really?
Yeah, I have because of what, is passed on at playgrounds.
Everybody's touching.
Yes.
Okay. So we can't go to the playground. We're like officially pretty much just locked into our house.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can go outside and get fresh air.
Yeah. Are you sure?
Yes,
okay.
I'm sure.
Well, we have a pool. We could go swimming.
It's a little cold, but we can heat the hot tub.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say crazy and a bad thing, but to me, it's almost surreal because, life is going on, but life is really changed.
Yeah, and if you think about just what's happened in the last week, more has changed in the last week than has probably changed in the last 5 years from like our lives. And we've went through major transformation, like just moving from California or from Washington State to California. Mm-hmm. But this is like getting flipped upside down and then getting thrown on spin cycle in like a week's time. And nothing, you can't go to the beach. You can't go anywhere. You can't go out on date night. We're like doing date night here. You can't just really go to the grocery store unless you need something. You can still go to Target, I guess. So that's a good thing. But if we think about the things that we take for granted every single day, teachers, are not even like, they may not even be an option right now for the next 30 days.
Right. But and this is maybe moving it forward fast, but I feel like the move was more hectic and things like that. We can't do certain things, but I mean, you can really choose how you handle it, and I feel like walking through some of those other things in life, it's like, it is kind of what it is. And, I've talked a lot about, like, everyone's talking about survival, survival kits, and we're surviving. And I'm like, no, like, we're going to thrive. And I think just being around, some things that I'm doing for myself, obviously, the kids are home and whatnot, but we continue to live life as normal as we can, with our habits, and me, doing for me first, whether it be exercising, and then surrounding myself with amazing, positive women that we're getting on. I mean, even our, power couples groups, getting on and praying for each other.
Yeah.
So yes, I know that there are, I'm not saying this isn't huge and this isn't to be taken seriously, But, I really, as we talked about it, we really wanted to decide how we were going to handle this, what our kids were going to see, how we were going to react, so when we look back and say, this is what we walked through, how do we want to remember it?
Yeah. And what's crazy about a lot of this is, not very many people can go to work right now. Like,
Yeah.
we're pretty lucky that we have, an office, 7-8 minutes from the house. It's got a gym, kind of has everything we need, outside of, what we have at home. So like at the end of the day, we could come in here and play, we could come in here and work out, and it's,
right. And then, yeah.
So, but at the same time, there's people that don't have that luxury. There's people that are forced back into their homes, and let's just say we have this, what is it, the 6-foot rule, or what do you call that, social distancing?
Yes.
And, the reality of it is a lot of relationships have social distancing already happening, and now they're being forced to be back in the home and like figure out some things. And that's a huge change for people. But I want to maybe talk about some things that you are doing and you've done with the kids, and not only with the kids, but with, things that we can do and teach couples to do as they come back into the home. And, there's the social distancing that's been going on, maybe not on purpose, but now you're kind of forced back into the home. And now it's like, okay, we got to work together now.
Right. And it's crazy as you're saying that, I'm sitting here thinking like, what do I need, or what is the important thing that I'm thinking? And what's crazy is the first thing that came to my mind was communication, and communicating with your spouse, whether that be the husband asking the wife, hey, how are you doing? What can I do for you? I see that this is a different, or even, the husband and wife being in the same house, maybe they have to work, but communicating on how they can do that effectively. And, it's not crazy, but such coincidence that that's number one, regardless,
right.
Is communication. So now more than ever, I would say we need to be communicating with each other on an open, honest, level. And then I'll let you share maybe your 2 things that you can think of. But the other thing for me that we've really been doing, and I've seen a huge shift in, is, it's so easy to sit around at home and the kids fighting or whatnot. And that takes over, it just kind of takes over your mindset and everything. So, if you can get the kids up and moving and, shifting from a place of fighting to maybe exercising, and I feel like for me, and as a mom and as a wife, that is so important as well, to help me kind of do something for myself, get my adrenaline going, get my mindset, right. So yeah, those are 2 things that have been really huge for me.
Yeah. And what's been cool to watch is, you're bringing the kids in, they're working out, and you're right. They do fight. They do, argue. They do those things. But it's funny when you exercise with them, or when they come in and they exercise, they seem to get along a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to be honest with you, like, couples would get along a lot better if they exercised together and, started like going for a walk together, or just doing something together, even with your kids, that's forcing you to get outside. It's forcing you to move. It's forcing you to shift your energy.
Right.
And I can't think of a better way to do that when everybody's frustrated with each other than, just to move and do that. And so that's one of the things that I've seen you do. And, I honor you for doing that, because, being at home with 3 kids all day and like, you kind of lost your nanny in a sense a little bit.
Yeah.
And so things are changing, not just for everybody else, but just inside of our home.
Well, and really, I just, I have to kind of adapt to whatever the kids are doing in a sense. And, the other thing I was going to say with movement is, I find myself, it's so easy when the kids are fighting to be like, hey, go to your room or do this. But like, instead, we're doing burpees.
Right.
And so they're moving there. And then after that, we're talking about, why we're grateful to have a sister or a brother. So I'm really trying to find a lesson in everything, and then, get them moving as much as they can. And then structure, like our kids just thrive on structure. So if they know that if they do an art project or, you know, Jesse Jr. teaches the girls something that they can bake, then they can have electronics for a little bit, then they're more, you know, they're more excited to do the daily activities.
Right. And I can't think of a better time than, you know, right now to teach our kids, you know, quality habits in the morning,
Right.
that they can start doing, that kind of they could do with us in a sense. And it gives them, you know, that energy and power and kind of focus for the day. And it also helps us, but also like thinking of things like, man, we can teach our kids how to cook, you know, obviously not all of them, but I mean, we can teach them how to cook, how to, you know, do arts and crafts, how to do other things than just play video games or other things like that. And I think these are crucial things for later on in life, to where they're going to come back and say, hey, you know, my mom and dad taught us how to cook. They taught us how to do these things that everybody else a lot of times takes for granted.
Right, for sure. And I mean, we have the time, and that's another thing to really, I had a pretty good revelation yesterday. I was doing some laundry and Jossie was, you know, playing Barbies. Mom, and she loves when you play Barbies with her. And, you know, typically it's like I have this certain amount of time to get the laundry folded or whatnot. And I almost said, give me a minute or wait a second. And it was, I mean, I literally stopped in my tracks and was like, oh my gosh, like we have all the time in the world right now. And so, you know, it makes me think about even, you know, the couples we coach or the women that, you know, I walk through this with is, you know, I just don't have time.
Right.
And we are being given this gift of time to spend with our kids, you know, and yes, we can look at it as torture and being locked inside with our kids, or we can look at it as these are our children. Like I wouldn't want them any other place at a time like this, but with me.
Right. And I actually think of, you know, this is an opportunity for us to really slow down in life and look at, you know, what's really important. And if you think about, you know, and I think in February, Kobe Bryant, he dies, you know, his daughter, and then, you know, it's like you start looking at life. Hey, am I paying attention to the things that really matter most?
Right.
And then literally 6 weeks later, it's like our world's completely rattled. And it's like, okay, we really got to start looking at what is important in our life and what matters the most. And, you know, my revelation the other day was, you know, the coronavirus is really a gift for us to slow down, you know, to work as a family, as a team, and to stop kind of doing life as individuals.
Right.
And, you know, I would like to say that, hey, we all work together as a team, but that's not always the case. But now more than ever, it's important to, like, if we want to thrive, we have to work together as a team. If we want to survive, then we work together as a bunch of individuals.
Right.
And to me, that's the real difference between surviving and thriving, is when you're thriving, you're working together with other people.
Right. And I even think about that with other businesses.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we come together, like there's so many other businesses that are still, I mean, yes, some are shut down, but some are still thriving. And I don't know. I think of businesses, I think of marriages, I think of celebrating each other, coming together, not against, you know, each other to walk through this, really.
Right. Yeah. And I think of, you know, community, like not only community of where we live, but community in who we, you know, maybe on social media, community as in, you know, other people in our community and just our lives, our family, and really coming together to support each other. And, you know, we're having meetings every Monday, Wednesday, Friday with, you know, the people in our coaching groups, and you're having meetings where it's like, we're praying for each other, and we're saying like, listen, go out into your world, into your community, and lead other people right now, because that's what they're looking for.
Right. And serve, like, who can you serve? Who can you give back to? And I've seen so many people come on and say, what can I do for you?
Right.
You know, at this time. And it just fills my heart. You know, it's just, what if what if this was a time and he was like, you know, basically, like you said, bringing people together because he saw, you know, the distance that was being created. And this is time to slow down, stay inside, spend time with your loved ones.
Yeah. And, you know, the other thing too is like when we talk about change, we often talk about change from an external place, and this change is from an internal place. This is not the change that's, all these things are changing externally. Yes, they are, but like ultimately, like we're looking at change internally, and this is an everlasting change that we're going through. And so this is going to be something that, when we go through this and we get through this, there's going to be so much growth inside of this, because the most growth you ever experience is from the internal change, not the external change.
Right. And I just, as you're saying that, I just think of strength, and it's crazy because a lot of times when we're, leading couples and change, or, changing your marriage or changing your habits, or even the women, when I talk about like, look, you have to stop focusing so much on others and put the focus on you, which is a huge change. We talk about how uncomfortable that is,
right.
But we're controlling that change. We're stepping into that. This change is pretty much out of our control, so which is a whole nother level of change, and really then us getting to choose how we handle it.
Right. And a lot of times we can, control the change that we're going through this time. We're getting put on, I think of just the last week, we went from, I think our kids went to school on Friday, or they got out on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, okay, like they're just going to be out of school. And then all of a sudden it's like, you can't be in a group of 250, you can't be in a group of 100, then 50, then 10. Then all of a sudden it's like, you can't come out of your house. And that is a radical change to happen in a week. Mm. And not only that, but now you're like, okay, well, what happens? Like we start going through this worst case scenario. What happens if, and I think sometimes when we go through this change, we want to go to the worst case scenario of, well, what if this happens? And I want to tell you guys, if you're in that place, like start working on going to the best case scenario.
Right.
Because, anytime where I've experienced massive change, and especially on the inside, on the other side of that represented the biggest season of growth for me, for me and Katie and our family. And I look back and say, wow, if I went through that, I can make it through anything.
Yeah. And, I know everyone, and I say, faith, but go to your faith instead of your fear. But of course there's things to fear. You think people that live paycheck to paycheck that don't have any money. And, the other thing is, don't go on this, what if this is forever? What if this is for 6 months? Really, go a little bit ahead and protect yourself and have the things you need, but don't go to that horrible place of, oh my gosh, like everything's, I'm going down and everything's, I'm not going to have anything if it lasts this long. Or I even hear people saying, oh my gosh, kids aren't going back to school. And so it's just, it's a lot of hype, and it's a lot of,
it's just a lot of fear of the unknown.
Right.
And, I like to actually do an exercise where we go through worst case scenario. Like you literally paint out the worst case scenario.
Right.
Like it's like, hey, maybe you die of the coronavirus, whatever. That's your worst case scenario. But also, if you're going to do that, go to the other side of best case scenario.
Right.
And make sure you do both of those, because here's the reality. You're going to feel fear.
Yes.
You're going to feel those things, acknowledge them, but also go to the complete extreme opposite, because you can't have one without the other.
That's so good.
And make sure that when you do the worst case scenario, you do the fear, you also do the freedom, and you do the best case scenario on the other side. And that's how you really change that state of fear. You change that state of worst case scenarios. You get into, okay, well, what's the best case scenario? It's like, me and my wife and our kids, like playing, at Disneyland, or going on vacation at a beach and seeing us and running around and jumping in the water, like seeing balloons, like seeing all these things. Because I can promise you, if you can imagine the worst case, you can imagine the best case, and you can put yourself in that place and start living there. When you want to go to fear, you want to go to the worst case scenario.
That's good. And the other thing I'd say for me, that I know my anxiety starts when I start thinking of future,
right,
that I have no idea But when I literally am like, okay, well, today is Friday, you know, we are at home, or we're doing this pod, you know, and things are, you know, we're okay, we're not sick, you know, I'm connecting with friends and whatnot. When I bring myself back to where my feet are today, oh my gosh, it just, I mean, literally I can feel like I just get lighter, you know, and that's a huge thing for me.
Right. So fear, worry, you know, doubt, all those things exist in the future, which a lot of people right now are kind of living there. And you know, what's crazy is we spend, you know, I think they say we spend 80% of our life living in the past. And right now, you know, we have how many people, you know, living in the future of the unknown, you know, they're worried, they're like fear, what's going to happen. But like, think about that. We literally are going from living in the past. 80% of our lives, we live in the past. We think about things that have happened in our past, and we let them affect, we let them affect today. But now we're letting the future affect today. And what I'm really hearing you say is like, listen, come back to today. This is where, you know, we've done a podcast on this where it was like, hey, what's the date? What's the time? You know, like you said, be where your feet are. That means like be here now in the moment and just focus on where you're at today. And I can't tell you how important that is when it comes to change.
Right. Well, and even, you know, for the kids, you know, Julia has a tendency to ask a lot of future questions that we can't answer. And so to bring her back to, well, this is what we know right now. These are the facts of today. A lot of times, I mean, you just literally see her shoulders drop and it's like, okay, like I can navigate that. So.
Right. So if you guys are at home and you're listening to this, like really think about, hey, what are some ways that you can stop the social distancing with your spouse and really begin to communicate? Because guess what? Now, right now is the time for you to open up communication. It's the time for you to be on the same page. And in order for you guys to thrive, you're going to have to work as a team, and that starts with communication.
Yes.
Right, Coach Katie?
No, that's not my name.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any last words for this episode?
No, I guess I would just say, if there's anything, always, I just want, you know, our listeners to know if there's anything that we can do for anyone, reach out. Like, I mean, that's as easy as something like they need actually physically, or, I mean, a prayer, like, you know, anytime. I really feel in times like this, my heart is definitely, you know, for others. And I always want others to know that, you know, we're here.
Yeah. And a cool thing too is, you know, think about in a time like this, it's easy to think about ourselves and our own safety. And some of the times what helps the most is when we're struggling is to reach out to somebody else. And then it doesn't feel like such a struggle. And the last part of this is, remember this, is take care of your own energy first every single day, so that when you come to your kids, you come to your spouse, you're bringing the best part of you to them every single day.
Right. So light your fire first. So
light it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right. So if you guys are looking to connect with a group of like-minded people, we now have a Power Couples
Facebook group,
private Facebook group, where you can be with other like-minded couples, sharing tips, tricks, date nights, all kinds of things, sex tips, habits, all those things, where we will be rocking in that group. So if you want to be part of this, just check out the show notes and we'll have a link in there. You know, click on that, answer the questions, and then we will approve you, and you will be first class MVP and treated that way as soon as you get in the group. So we're excited to have you. We're excited to have this group, and we're excited to be leading marriages inside of
Power Couples.
Power Couples. Yeah. Until next episode, have a great day.